right, free thinkers, we're here with another beautiful morning with another video from Melanated Media News, where alternative independent thinking is as simple as breathing. Now, today we're going to have a continuation somewhat of the seeking validation. You could tie mental health into it, but we'll keep with the theme of seeking validation. Now, there's an excellent movie called Come Sunday with the one actor. Can't pronounce his name, but he was in a lot of films. If you see him, you'll be familiar with him. And in this film, I think it's based on a true story. He plays a pastor from Tulsa, Oklahoma. And basically, long story short, he begins to question his religious beliefs. He begins to question. I think he sees like a famine in Ethiopia, and he's like, man, how are these people, like, why would God let people suffer like this? And why, I thought God was supposed to love all of us, and why does it seem like he loves some of us and he lets another portion of us suffer and live in poverty and crime-ridden areas and different things like that? So he begins to ask these questions, and what ends up happening is, also, I forgot to mention, he brings together white people, I guess. So that they felt like that was kind of a major part of the movie, where it was one of the few churches in the city or whatever that brought together black and white population in the same church at the time. So you have that aspect. Now, basically what happens is he becomes an outcast. He becomes, because it's like small community, everybody knows everybody. And once he starts kind of going with this theme of, well, isn't God supposed to love us? Why is he letting us go through this? People start getting up, they're leaving the church, his church numbers go down, and of course that's how they make their money. So to me, that's very alarming. When you're not seeking validation, when you go with what your spirit or whatever moves you tells you, you're gonna be an outcast. And that has to go with the theme from yesterday, where when you're not seeking validation from the status quo, when you're not seeking constant approval from people, when you're not seeking likes, when you're not seeking, all of this stuff, you're going to become an outcast. There's a thing on Facebook, I think it says, like, African proverb, a person who speaks the truth has no friends. Like, I don't know about all of that. I never heard of that. And Africa's a continent, so they could be more specific about that. But my point is that generally, and in the video where I did on entertainment and how entertainment, Theodore Ardon, I think that's his name, he was a philosopher, and he was basically saying, like, those who speak out against the masses, they become outcasts. They become, like, they kind of have to go into their own world, into their own, sort of whole universe that exists outside of society. And society looks at them as the black sheep, as the outcast, as different, as a free thinker, as whatever you want to call it. And it's within each, like, if you think about it, Christianity is mainstream. Each mainstream sector in society has its own mainstream, if that makes sense. Like, you can be an outcast of a Christian, you can be an outcast of a Jewish religion, you can be an outcast of anything that's mainstream, even if a Hebrew Israelite. Like, so you can't really escape it. And it makes you think also, like, the herd, the sheep mentality, where do we have to, how many of the pastors do we think, it shows the human aspect, it shows truth, it shows genuineness, it shows truth, it shows that you're human, because it shows that it's a very logical question. Why would God let these people suffer? If God is a loving God, why would he let people suffer? And it just shows that what happened if you question the status quo. And I think he went to visit one church, And basically, the guy said, your brother's going to hell. And he said, the pastor he was talking to, he said, yes, my brother's in hell. And he had a choice in what he did. God didn't make him do it. And you know what I mean? Like, to think, that's what kind of made me stop what I was doing as far as following Christianity. It's really the same path that I actually began to follow, where I began to question the moral compass of this quote unquote creator, of this quote unquote God. Like, how can people suffer for an eternity for something they may be ignorant of, or if they're a product of their environment? It, you know what I mean? It just doesn't. If you really have a heart and compassionate heart, you cannot. There's no way you can make that make sense to me. Now, that might be a whole nother topic, but my point is, it shows even when you want to think for yourself, when you want to question things that should be questioned, that deserve questioning, people will give you resistance. People will fight back. People will do whatever they can that's in their powers to stop you from freeing other people, not just physically, but mentally. So it's like, if people are enslaved through religion, through religious doctrine, they will, it's like them defending a physical territory. Like, well, we're going to keep rolling. I hope you can hear me. But anyways, the pastor, he doesn't really have a choice. He can't feed his family. It's like, it shows how much the validation, like I was saying, how people seek status, material status, not just in physical terms, but as far as their relationships. And it shows like you have to basically conform to how society thinks just to even preach the word of God. Mainstream as preaching the word of God is, you can't even question it. Making people think is dangerous. Making people think for themselves is very dangerous. And just to get resistance, because he's reading from the same book, the same Bible as they have, in the church, as they were there. And they're just leaving, they're getting up. And it's like, it just shows you how dangerous it is not to think for yourself, but to even push people on that path, the type of resistance that you would get. And it shows how resistant to change we are, how comfortable we are, and all of our different biases and different things like that. So the film, in my opinion, was just another confirmation that a lot of people don't want to be awoke. A lot of people don't want to be. That pastor, his church never grew to the size that it was before. And it's like, you have to understand this going into speaking your truth, speaking whatever you feel is your truth. You know what I mean? You have to be prepared. And if he would have been, I think he cried maybe once in the film, because he had to like auction some of like the church piano and different things like that. But what could he do? He kept his integrity, where he felt, this is not right, I need to say something about it. And it cost him popularity, it cost him validation from the community. But it's really, that's a whole nother thing. But it's like, it's not really that deep. And that's what I'm saying. I don't think he was really saying like he doesn't believe in God completely, but this again shows like this division that's inherited within our society. We feel like it's not beneficial to agree to disagree. Like, we can't disagree with someone and still see how we can benefit from each other from a certain perspective. And to me, that's alarming.